It is Tuesday, September 6th, 2022, and this is DC Signal to Noise. Since we last talked, Russia decided not to restart the flow of natural gas through the Nord Stream pipeline. They completed the maintenance and just decided, we don't have to turn it back on now. The Biden administration has asked for another $47.1 billion. The U.S. jobs data in August got a Goldilocks label, and the Iowa State Cyclones won their first game of the season and won it pretty easily. Thank God. All right, Jim Wiesemeyer, Pro Farmer Policy Analyst. Good morning, Jim.
The Nationals have won 3 in a row, 2 against the Mets and 1 against my St. Louis Cardinals.
Wow, are they still playing baseball? Did you see?
The Cubs aren't.
Did you see that the Cubs decided to go ahead and pitch to Pujols?
Yes, and then he's only 5 away, I guess, from another record.
And just serving them up. Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. Welcome to you all. I'm glad that you're with us on this Tuesday morning. I'm AgriTalk host Chip Flory. Senate comes back to work today. The House is still on recess until September 13th, Jim.
Yes.
So we should start to see some movement on some of the critical issues that we have talked about in the past here. The comments tab on your screen, click on that and a dialog box will pop up. You can be involved in the conversation if you would like to be involved. And Melody, good morning. It's good that you're back. I'd like to see that. Jim, let's start with the question that we had on the comments, I believe just last week, about the Magnetosphere.
Yes.
What did you learn?
Well, it's made the Earth hospitable. It protects us from the space weather, but it's weakened apparently about 10% or so over the last 160 years. So I guess the concern is that if it continues to weaken, that it will affect the Earth's weather cycles or whatever. That's kind of the bottom line. It's just something else to worry about.
And there's a cycle to the strength of the magnetosphere, right?
Yes, it can flip-flop. It can flip-flop. That was made clear to me as well. Yes.
Yeah, that might be why we have periods of warming and periods of cooling in the in the globe. But
be careful how you say it.
I'm just saying. I'm not saying.
No.
And I'm not denying, but I'm saying. All right. Some of the things that happened over the weekend: Russia will not restart the flow of gas to Germany as planned. You were watching the European energy markets yesterday, Jim. Tell us about it.
UK energy prices went up 30% intra-market, Chip. They settled 10% higher, and throughout Europe they've gone up. I mean, they were already sky high, as you well know. Now the European officials are going to meet Friday to approve a huge consumer aid package, and we're talking a lot of money, Chip, to bring down the cost of electricity and gas. So this is affecting not only Europe, but it will eventually affect the United States again as well. We've got Brent crude over right around $92, so they're on their way up. In addition, OPEC Plus Monday decreased their production by 10%. Not much,
Enough.
100,000. I shouldn't say 10%.
Yeah, 100,000 barrels a day.
Yes, but it was the psychological, factor there that helped, surge prices as well.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Jim, how serious? We're talking about a huge amount of money that Putin is saying that he could be generating a lot of money from these sales, by restarting the Nord Stream pipeline. The money is important to him. There is no question about that. How serious is he with this threat not to restart the flow?
Very serious, because their officials told the West they're not going to open the spigot again on Nord Stream 1 until the West lifts its sanctions. Well, it's not going to happen, very soon. So we're in this for the long haul. So connecting the dots, Chip, you've got Ukrainian president saying, hey, we need to accelerate our action in this war because Putin and Russia is in for the long haul.
Okay.
So all these are tied together. And Russia, for the first time, really admitted in a report that I think Bloomberg was the first to report on of increasing degradation to their economy as a result
Yeah.
of these sanctions. So we're getting some truth now.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw I found the numbers now from your morning update. Uh, it could cost Russia as much as 400 billion rubles, about $6.6 billion a year in lost tax revenues. With the kind of numbers that we toss around in the U.S., $6.6 billion doesn't sound like that much anymore, Jim.
No, but to Russia's economy, it does. Plus, they're going to be it's going to grow on Russia because with them having to replace parts for their manufacturing industry that they relied on the West, so they're going to be increasingly inefficient, Chip, and they'll have to close some plants down as well that you're seeing also in Germany increased in the future. So yeah, this is having a world impact, and that's why the WTO general over the weekend was rather somber assessment on the outlook ahead, not only for trade volume. I think they're going to reduce it in the next few days, but also on the impact of all these things we've been talking about, energy, etc., how it will affect the entire global economy.
Okay. So last week we talked about the plan to put a cap on Russian oil prices. Now it looks like there is a plan on how that cap is going to be enforced.
Yeah, and two different dates. I forget the exact dates. One is December, and the other one I think is sometime early next.
February.
Yeah, in February. But Russia holds the trump card, I think, on this one because they're going to move even more of their volume if they do this, okay, to Asia. And so, unless you have the vast majority of countries in this coalition for this plan, Chip, I don't think it's going to work. That's what the real good thinkers are saying.
Okay. So the plan to enforce the cap is there's a group of wealthy countries moving ahead with a plan to ban the insurance and financing of Russian oil shipments unless they're priced at a certain level or below.
Yes, and 90% of their shipments are basically insured by Europe.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Okay. Questions are starting to come in. Michael, I see you there. He says, I am denying. I appreciate that. Gary Rasmussen comes in with, has Putin made a de facto reserve energy currency?
Well, Putin, before the invasion, for several years, built up Russian currency reserves. So I think you can't get away from the dollar that easily. But in part, he has tempered, this with a pseudo energy currency
Right.
to a degree, not totally,
Right.
but he cannot escape the world impacts because of the Russian
Right.
economy for 20 years, well, ever since the fall of the Soviet Union, was becoming more geopolitical.
Yeah. Jim, I just recalled something that I think you said on the free for all on AgriTalk on Friday. When you said that Russia will continue to move to Asia, you said on Friday that Asia is then turning around and selling that Russian oil out into the global market. Is that happening, and how widespread is it?
It's probably widespread. It's hard to
Okay.
track, Chip, because even some of these ships now that they've found that they're decoying some of their signals so you can't follow them. So it's I think intelligent speculation, but because you're seeing the volumes go
Yeah.
over to China, and they can't even use it all. So
Right.
yeah, they're making some profits. So
Okay.
China and India especially.
Okay. Uh, Tanner makes a good point. And Tanner came in with, doesn't Germany have inventories near their goal of 75% of last year's needs in regards to natural gas? I know that they have built up significantly their inventories. I don't know if it's all the way to their goal yet, is it?
It's 85% now.
85%. Okay, it's there.
85%. So that tells you, yeah, they have made substantial progress. Now, it depends on the temperature. It depends on their other actions, but it looks like they're doing what they have to do.
Okay. And then Melody came in with the point that I just made. Sorry, Melody. Russia is selling oil and gas to China that in turn is selling it to Europe. We just discussed that.
Yeah, that's just like our grain embargo. Remember the Carter grain embargo? Similar things happened. It's just hard to track.
Right. Right. Okay. There's AB Sundell says this is a big mess. All fertilizer plants around the Baltic Sea are shut down. We are now struggling to buy, even if we want. There is halting availability of fertilizer products around the Baltic.
It's going to continue as an issue. Yeah, this fertilizer thing is not going to go away anytime soon. So yeah, we could be right back in the soup,
Right.
And look at diesel prices. While gasoline prices have come down,
That's right.
rather significantly, diesel is what, over $5.
Over $5 a gallon.
Yeah. So yeah, you're spot on. Fertilizer, nobody knows with any significant odds of when the fertilizer market will be tempered, and so it'll be a plus side again for world ag.
Right. If you want some perspective on what's going on in the fertilizer markets, we had Josh Linville from StoneX Group. He's kind of the go-to guy on a lot of fertilizer issues for many news outlets right now. But we had him on AgriTalk on Wednesday last week. Give that conversation a listen. I think it'll shed some light on exactly what's going on out there. Okay, let's talk a little bit more about Russia and their activities in Ukraine. What are they doing? Are they targeting a nuclear plant?
It shut down over the weekend because they lost electricity. So they had to fire it down. So that it just, the odds are at least increasing of a dramatic impact on that, Chip. And that's all I really want to say, because I'm going to let the experts talk on that one. But the outlook on that is not good. I also want to point out, before I forget, over the weekend, Russia approved giving Putin more freedom in countries that have Russian citizens. Now, I don't want to hype it too much, but just think of this. He can go into a country to help Russians, much like he did in the Crimea. Remember when he said he was just helping the Russian citizens? So they gave him more flexibility. That's not a good sign.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Let's move to another spot, another potential hot spot that everybody is watching. China has threatened over the weekend to take countermeasures after the Biden administration approved the sale of more than $1.1 billion worth of arms to Taiwan. This is pretty much standard operating procedure stuff, isn't it?
It is. And this is what the Biden administration, I think, accurately said, that this was, coming. Should not have been a surprise to China. But again, they're going into their party Congress, Chip, on October 16th. So they have to appear that they're not backing down one iota to the United States. So I think this is more noise rather than any signal to me at this particular time.
Okay. As long as we're talking China and conflicts here, it looks like the White House is going to keep the Trump era tariffs in place for a while, right?
Yes, USTR, U.S. Trade Rep put out a statement Friday, and they're going to call for more comments, but this is just delaying it right now, because you had a number of U.S. manufacturers that wants to keep those tariffs on. So I think that the way Washington, I don't care whether it's Democratic or Republican administrations, the way they think that they solve problems is just to extend something, Chip. So they don't know really what they want to do on this one.
Gotcha. Okay. I feel like I need to back up to something, Jim. Where was it? I just saw it in
I
my
want to go
notes.
back to the disaster aid, Chip.
Well, yeah, no, we're going to get there. We're
Okay.
going to get there. Oh, I know what it was. When we talk about energy issues, we need to talk about the U.S. commitment to restock the SPR every time we talk about it now.
Okay.
What is the level of commitment?
Well, eventually, yes. But in part of this package that the White House sent to Congress Friday, I think it was Friday, I haven't seen much reporting other than on Pro Farmer, Chip. So others are going to follow us up on this one. But in there, they've requested $500 million more for the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. So it will give them a longer time to refill it. And there's other reasons for the funding request for the SPR, but that caught my eye in some of the requests. So that answers your question last week, Chip, is how soon will they start refilling it?
Yeah.
I don't think it's anytime soon.
Okay. It's got to be before the end of the year.
It gets into by the end of fiscal 2023 that starts October 1. That's kind of what the language kind of signaled.
Okay.
So they have a full year.
Oh, man.
Yeah, about 15 months.
Yeah, it's going to be a shock to the system when the U.S. comes in and starts competing for oil on the global market.
Depends where we're at that particular time. Yeah. But they could always, the emergency declarations. I mean, the White House can probably say there's an emergency, and or they could put another line in the coming, continuing resolution to give them more flexibility. Those are the things we're watching for.
Okay, let's talk currencies here just real quickly because Adam had a question. He says, Good morning, Adam. How significant is the dollar index cracking above 110?
The dollar strength, which now continues to go higher. The Wall Street Journal had an interesting article today saying that around the world, traders are flocking to the U.S. equities market now because it's one of the few games in town, knowing what's going on in the rest of the world for some of the reasons we've already talked about. That's giving U.S. consumers more power, more flexible power for their buying power. So, but with the Fed going to increase interest rates, probably another 75 basis points, September 21st, the 20th and the 21st on the next FOMC meeting, you're going to see a continued, at worst, a stable dollar, if not an increasing, dollar strength. And you're seeing that in the euro that went under parity again.
Yeah, it's at 99.
And the British pound and the yen. So yes, that's unless we have the G7 go in and settle this thing down again. But you can't rule out that either, Jeff.
Right. Yeah, the dollar index this morning is up about 680 points at that 110.20. I saw a comment last week that the dollar is so strong in Europe that even the Europeans have to call it soccer now.
Yeah. And a number of Americans are going to Europe and to buying real estate and houses. So, these are the things you see when currencies get out of alignment. And it'll come to the G7's attention. We've been through this before, several decades ago.
That's right. Okay. Let's get to this one because this is a biggie, no question about it. The Biden White House has asked for $47.1 billion, including a higher than expected $11.7 billion in military and budgetary aid for Ukraine. Jim, this is going to sound kind of cold and heartless, but another $11.7 billion for Ukraine, and all we can do is in Mississippi is tell them not to drink the water.
Yeah. Well, it's a disconnect
Come on
there. Yeah. That's going to get them in trouble eventually if they keep it up. But this is a proxy war. This is not
Yeah.
Ukraine fighting, Russia by itself. This is the proxy war with the
Yeah.
U.S. and Europe. That is clear. And administrations always, suggest supplemental spending, and they're usually very important things. And this is one of them. But still more aid for Ukraine. But included in there was $6.5 billion, Chip, for disaster aid, of which $1.5 billion is for crops and livestock disasters this year.
This year.
Now, just as soon as we reported on that over the weekend, I got a flood of emails saying, "Is that all that the emergency relief program, which it'll probably be implemented that way? Is that all that's going to total?" No. Farm state lawmakers now have a history of increasing that once they get into the details of what we will eventually have, a continuing resolution or a stopgap funding measure to be approved by the end, but by the end of this month, Chip. So we're going to know. But I want to tell listeners, we don't know the full amount. Number two, it will probably go out via the ERP program because USDA now has the regulations for that. They have history of that, and they're able to get the money out in a more efficient manner. So again, additional aid is coming, and this would be multiple years now for the ag disaster aid, which causes some questions in the crop insurance area that eventually, is this going to be a yearly program? And if so, how will that affect farmers' attitudes toward buying crop insurance?
Yeah, absolutely. Um, and it's the amount of ad hoc spending on disaster programs has got to have an impact on the debate, the negotiations of the next farm bill.
It will. Yes. Yes. Absolutely. But in at the Farm Progress show, G.T. Thompson had a presser, and he made clear that if he is the new House Ag Committee chairman, if the Republicans do take over the House, an extension of the current farm bill is not an option, Chip. So he made that clear. And that's the feeling we got, if you recall, when I had dinner with him and his
Yeah.
wife uh, a month ago, I guess. So he's following suit on that. But I'll tell you, a farm bill is going to, it's, after watching 10 of them, first and foremost is they have to settle on how much funding is going to be available for food and nutrition. If you don't get that, you won't have a farm bill. We saw
Right.
that the last farm bill. So there has to be, and it's usually a lot more money. Once you have that settled, then you can discuss, okay, how much funding is available, and they're going to request from the budget, committees, additional funding above and beyond what the traditional farm bill baseline would look like, and I think they're going to need it.
Yeah, I think they're definitely going to need it. Look at what the federal payments, the ad hoc payments, the emergency relief payments have meant to total farm income. You had those numbers last week.
Yes, and it was a dramatic change in their net farm and net cash income from
Yeah.
what USDA forecast in February. I'm not faulting USDA. They didn't know some of these payments would be approved. They have to go on the policy existing at the time they make their forecast. So this shows you the importance until we get hopefully settled down in the years ahead, that you won't have to rely on these ad hoc payments. But they're needed. I'll tell you, I get a lot of emails and calls where it's needed significantly, and that happens to be in the west of the Mississippi. That's where
Yeah.
it's needed.
Yeah, I'm telling you, Jim, and even with the amount of money that has been spent in the ag industry over the last 2-3 years, there are some that have still been left out. You know, and I'm looking at the hog industry,
Yes.
and some of those hog producers, they experienced huge costs that still have not been covered, eh, much if any. And I don't know if that's ever going to happen.
Well, some has been covered, but not nearly enough. To be fair, I don't think it's been equitable to the hog sector. Some of this, financial assistance, and if that's the case, I know Brian Grady chatted with me last week because he knows I have a lot of contacts in the hog industry, and we're trying to confirm a rather a trend that we're picking up in some of our sources, Chip, of some liquidation
Yep.
in the hog sector, and we're probably going to see those numbers come into fruition in the latter part of this year.
Right. Right.
There's bleeding
Yeah,
out there. Yeah.
that's exactly right. That's the bottom line there. It's in some markets, it's hard to get sows in right now.
Yes.
You make the phone call, it might be 3 weeks before you get sows into before you can move them. So, okay, just a couple of minutes left. What else are you watching closely this week?
Well, I want to see action again on this continuing resolution and the White House budget request. We have the crop report coming out, September the 12th.
Yeah,
So the key
next.
things there will be what if that second digit on the corn yield, the trade is at a 7,
Mhm.
172 about. The pro farmer estimate had a 6 in there. So that's a key. But even at 172, corn prices will be, relatively firm. We're
Yeah,
going to have to
supported.
watch the acreage to see if NASS agrees with uh, Pro Farmer. I think we went up 500,000 acres
On
planted
soybeans.
on soybeans and kept
Yep,
corn the same.
the
And
same.
so it's kind of we're gearing up there. Australia Monday put out a huge wheat crop estimate and a good canola crop estimate as well. So that's what we're watching, and of course, Fed action coming up here on the
Yeah.
20th and the 21st.
Okay, very good. I'm going to have Jeff Cooper from RFA, the CEO at RFA, on the show this morning, talking about the administration's plans to come with a 3-year RVO, renewable volume obligation. Is that even legal under the RFS, Jim?
I think it's probably legal that
Okay.
they've given EPA pretty good flexibility, which they should. And again, as we discussed on AgriTalk on Friday, if they do that, it was first a Reuters story. If EPA releases 3 years, that's good for the industry because then you can plan. There's always subject to changes as we get into that particular year because market situation changes, but at least you can kind of plan a lot better than after the fact. Jeff, we've gone well over a year on getting some of the final numbers for the RVOs of the RFS.
Right. Right. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to that conversation with Jeff. We'll get to some of the details, and we can obviously talk about some of the other issues that are happening in the industry. Jim, I'll admit I might be a little distracted this week.
Oh,
I'm just saying, it is Beat Iowa week. It's Iowa State this weekend, and so I might be just a touch distracted. Hopefully, I can hold it together until we get to the weekend and try to figure it out. I figure after the way the Hawkeyes played this weekend, I figure if we can keep them from punting, we might stand a chance of winning the game.
wow.
It's one of the strangest things. Have you ever seen a team get to 7 with a field goal and 2
They
safeties?
they had that. Yes.
Yeah. And it's
We've
because of
probably
the
seen it
punter.
before, but not often. Not
Yeah,
often.
and it's because of that punter. There's no question about it. All right, Jim. Like I said, I've got Jeff Cooper from RFA on this morning. Courtney Knupp from the National Pork Board is also going to be on the show today. We've got a great lineup, including I will be remote at a wetland in Iowa, Waverly, Iowa, on
Wow.
Thursday this week, and the Iowa Corn is sponsoring that show. We're going to be talking about some of the the benefits and of wetland restorations and what it means for nutrient runoff and so on. So
I want to
should be a lot
point
of fun.
out that today, in fact, shortly after this program, I do my quarterly taxes, UGG, and once again, it tells me that it's taxpayers that pay for all these transfer payments. The government just implements these
Yes,
programs. So my and other people's taxes help pay for needed things, but some
absolutely.
not needed things, some not
Yeah.
needed things.
Yeah. Let's spend wisely,
Yes,
shall we?
absolutely.
Not just
Absolutely.
broadly,
No,
not just broadly. Let's spend wisely. Jim,
absolutely.
thank you so much,
Sure.
buddy. Have a great week. Keep watching for those signals.